Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Donna Daw, and on behalf of the PA-OCN Chamber and our co-host, University College of the North, thank you for joining us tonight at tonight's MLA By-Election Candidates Forum. Whether you're joining us here on Zoom or watching the live stream on Facebook, we're grateful you've taken the time to participate in our democratic process. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather. The PA-OCN Chamber of Commerce and the University College of the North acknowledge that we gather on Treaty 5 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Dene, and Oji-Cree peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. We are honored to live, work, and gather in this region, and we recognize the importance of building respectful relationships with one another. As we come together this evening to discuss the future of our communities, may our conversation be guided by respect, understanding, and a shared commitment to serve the people of our region. Tonight, we also pause to recognize the late Amanda Laughlin, who faithfully served the people of the Pas-Kamisak as their MLA. We extend our continued condolences to her family, friends, colleagues, and all of those whose lives she touched. We thank Amanda for her years of public service and dedication to our region. I would like to thank our partner, UCN, for co-hosting this important community event. It is through partnerships like these that we can help create opportunities for informed civic engagement. I'd also like to recognize the Chamber President, Abdul Malik Nuhu, who is managing the technical side of tonight's forum and will be moderating the questions submitted through the Zoom chat. Before introducing our candidates, I'd like to briefly review tonight's format. This forum is intended to help voters learn more about the candidates and make an informed decision before Election Day on Tuesday, July 21st. Each candidate will begin with a 3-minute opening statement. The moderator will then guide the candidates through a series of prepared questions, with each candidate having up to 2 minutes to respond. We will also include questions submitted by members of the public through the Zoom chat, time permitting. Candidates will conclude the evening with a 2-minute closing statement. To ensure fairness, the speaking order has been randomly determined and will rotate throughout the evening. Candidates are asked to respect the time limits, and our moderator may mute microphones if the time expires or if decorum is not maintained. We respectfully ask everyone joining us tonight to remember that this is a public information forum, not a campaign rally or debate. We encourage respectful dialogue and ask that everyone conduct themselves accordingly. It is now my pleasure to introduce tonight's candidates, listed in alphabetical order. Wally Daudrich from Keystone Party, Jennifer Flett, New Democratic Party, Edna Nabess, Progressive Conservative Party, Dan Quesnel, Manitoba Liberal Party. Thank you to each of you for participating and for your willingness to serve our region. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce our co-host and this evening's moderator, Monty Cashel from UCN. Monty, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Donna. Welcome, everybody. We're going to jump right into opening statements from each candidate. And Wally, you're up first. You have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Tanse Ani, I wanted to speak a little bit about me and then a little bit about what my platform is, and then I have a couple of questions to ask. So thank you for the opportunity to present our case here, and thank you for the other candidates, for Jennifer, Edna, and Dan, for their willingness to serve in this way. And also, as the moderator mentioned earlier, I'd like to just take a moment to remember Amanda Laughlin, and also her father, who I knew as well, who served the province faithfully and dutifully. So a little bit about me is my family and I, we're from Churchill. We've lived all over the north, and I've knocked on virtually every door several times in northern Manitoba as a federal candidate for the Federal Conservative Party. And my wife and I have been married for 32 years. We have 5 kids. We have a business in Churchill called Lazy Bear Expeditions. It's a business that's been growing over the decades, and now almost all my kids are involved in it. And we employ about 10% of the town of Churchill. We've done well enough now that our monthly payroll is $500,000. No small feat and no small amount in a town of Churchill that is about somewhere between 900 and 1,000 people. I've been all across northern Manitoba, including spending a lot of time in the Pas, in Flin Flon, Snow Lake, Thompson, Garden Hill, Barrenlands Band, Red Sucker Lake, all places that I would say share a few things in common. Language and culture might be one of them, but I also believe that they share another thing, and that's a need for economic development. Economic development is the lifeblood of this province. In southern Manitoba, we have something called farming. And there, the farmers, they produce wonderful things that we love to eat. Wheat produces bread, donuts. We go to Timmy's and enjoy donuts and pasta and wonderful things. But they take things from the ground and they make good things from them.
1 minute left, Wally.
Thank you. Thank you. So economic development means that we create wealth. And right now, virtually every problem that we will be discussing tonight is a problem that erupts from one thing. And that one thing is that we're broke. Our region, northern Manitoba, has been ruled by the NDP for about 3 or 4 decades, depending on who you talk to. Nikki Ashton, and I would congratulate Rebecca Chartrand, who I think is actually a big breath of fresh air. And is
30 seconds.
Thank you. And is actually working with the local RMs and towns that I have spoken to in a very productive way. So 3 to 4 decades of NDP rule. Are things trending the way you want them to? And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Wally. Edna, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this forum. I will tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in the north. I grew up in Cormorant. I'm from Matthias Clone Cree Nation. I've always been a self-starter. I had my first entrepreneur job when I was 11 years old, cleaning fish for tourists. And then from there, my mother taught me how to make moccasins. And so I've opened 3 shops, one in the Pas, one in Winnipeg, and first Indigenous shop in Riding Mountain National Park. So I've been doing this for like about 30 years. I've raised my 5 children. When my youngest was 4, I became a single parent. So I raised my 5 children myself doing this. And I've always taken young people under my wing, showing them how to do this and showing them that they can make a career out of this. There's a few girls now that have actually been overseas with their fashions. And they said it's because, I had taught them how to do this. And working in different reserves, Pangasi, Little Grand, I know they're not in the riding. Matthias Clome, my band. Cormorant, the Pas. Right now, the Pas is the gateway to everything because you got to go to the Pas to get basically any place. Highway 60, we need that to be fixed. We need a lot of roads fixed. And you know what? And I just thank Amanda too for being there for all the years that she served. But I think the North is being taken for granted that, it's an easy riding. So, we'll get the riding anyway. So we don't need to say anything. So I put my name in the ring again, just to bring out some of the things that we need. We need jobs. We need jobs in the North. We need better health care. We need that clinic that was supposed to be there 5 years ago. The previous government put the shovels in the ground, everything was there, and then something happened that it never happened. Now it's being used as a campaign to say, yeah, it'll be built, but then I heard it's not going to be built till 2030. We need something now. We cannot wait. And same with our communities. We cannot wait.
30 seconds.
We need to have healthcare there now. We need jobs. And I believe that I can deliver some of this. And I'd like to thank you all for listening to this opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, you're next, your opening statement.
All right. Just, first and foremost, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and UCN for facilitating this event. Super important that we get public forums like this to come together, have constructive conversation, and hopefully everyone has some takeaways at the end of the night. They can learn something from it. A little bit about myself: born and raised in southern Manitoba in a little farm community in Minnedosa. Always had a passion for the outdoors. Moved up to the area in 2019 originally to pursue hunting and fishing. Met a girl from the paw here, my partner Tara, and so I moved down here in 2022. I couldn't talk her into moving up any further up into the bush than she already was, so that was fair. Moved down to the paw, and currently I'm a chartered financial planner and a branch manager for one of the big banks. We're really proud. One of our branches operates right on Opaskwayak Cree Nation, and that's where I hang out and work there day in and day out. So really learned a lot. Met a lot of people in the community, and really always looking for opportunities to learn the culture, some of the traditions, and it's been great. I love the North. So I have 3 daughters. One of them who's just turned 2. She kind of just ran through the camera there, so I apologize for the distraction, Edna, if she was loud when you were speaking there. But ultimately, I look at her and I look at the state of the North, and I'm like, what the heck? We got to do something different. Pick any one of the topics: healthcare, housing, economic development. We got flooding, serious flooding issues that keep coming up in various parts of the constituency year in and year out. And so, ultimately what spurred me to throw my name in the hat was that we need to do something different if that North is going to be viable for communities and families. When my little one's getting up past high school and looking at what she's going to do with her life.
1 minute.
So really, okay, go quick. So really, that's ultimately what spurred me to throw my name in the hat. I'm a really strong advocate. I'm very strong-headed, and I feel like I can, bring a lot to the table in, unifying our voice in the North. We've been riding under one banner for, a long time now, and I feel like there's a lot more that could be done up here, and I'm ready for the challenge, and I'm ready to take it head on and do some good in the North. So that's ultimately what spurred me to run. And, and I just want to applaud the other candidates. It's great. It just shows the strength of our democracy when we have so many different people with backgrounds coming together, all trying to make our world that we live in a better place. So thanks to everybody else. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce and UCN as well. How did I do for time there? 10 seconds.
Perfect.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. All right, Jennifer, you have 3 minutes for an opening statement.
Hello, Tensa Anin to everybody, and to the 3 other running mates that are taking part. I see Wally and Edna and Dan, and I really do thank the PA-OCN Chamber of Commerce and UCN for making this happen. It's important, like was mentioned, to hear the candidates and to hear what they have to say and what they would like to see. And I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Flett. I'm the youngest to George and Maggie Flett, both late. They're both residential and boarding school survivors who, despite the challenges, raised us in a very good home. I'm very thankful for the upbringing that I was provided with. We were brought up in a traditional way in terms of going hunting and trapping and fishing, and we learned stewardship of the land, and really appreciated that, and think it's a very important part of living in our part of the territory in our constituency. I was raised, like I said, in this tri-community area, and it's very important to acknowledge that because we have the RMF Kelsey, the Opaskwayak Cree Nation, and a ton of the Paw, and it's been a very good learning experience, especially growing up here and, you know, getting to know each community and all the people that live in it and the good times and the bad times that we've seen each other go through. And it's important to know that people are our most trusted and important resource. And I just need to acknowledge that as well. For myself also, I spent 20 years working with the Correctional Service of Canada, and I moved home and I became involved locally in politics, and I was the first elected vice chief of the Opaskwarak Cree Nation, and then I also was elected as a council member 3 years later. So I have that experience of working in government and becoming an elected official,
1 minute.
also, okay, thank you. Also, knowing how to listen and how to respond to people, to individuals, stakeholders that are part of our communities, and how we can address things. Bringing it to the table and having a discussion and working on it as a group. And that's my intention, to be the person who can listen and advocate at the table with Wap Canoe. And when I was asked to consider throwing my name in the hat, as Dan said, I really took a lot of time to research and look at it, and I really like the mandate and the principles and priorities of the NDP party, and that's why I decided to take part in the candidacy, and I'm very excited to represent the NDP.
Thank you, Jennifer. That concludes the oh, we got sound effects even. That concludes the opening statements. Thank you very much. I got to tell you, we are right dead on time, so we're doing great. We're going to move into the question period. And just so you know, the questions you'll hear tonight, they were created by the team at the PAOCN Chamber of Commerce. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. I'll give you a 30-second warning when we're coming. And if you didn't notice, the time clock is actually at the top of your screen for the candidates. So Edna, you're the first person to go on this question now. And the topic is economy and jobs. So businesses in our area are short of workers and struggle to operate at full capacity. What will you do as our MLA to address the chronic shortage of workers in northern Manitoba?
Like I said, I have been an entrepreneur all my life. I think communities could be more self-sufficient if they started smaller business. Like sometimes we don't start way up here, we need to start down here. And everybody can contribute. But you know, we do need to have health care. And you know, with the Churchill, with this big thing that they're talking about, we all need to start preparing for that. So, you know, people, you know, whatever you can do, whatever job that you can do, like the PAW, we need more businesses there. We need more small businesses there. And small businesses are the ones that contribute. Like without the small businesses, our towns wouldn't be there. And I forgot the question.
It's what would you do to address the chronic shortage of workers in northern Manitoba?
Okay, well, yeah, it's, you know, it's getting entrepreneurs on board, getting them on board, opening up these small businesses, you know, and then they can grow, teaching our young people that, like, I grew up in the trap line in the fish camp, and my mother taught me how to
30 seconds.
to do this, and now I have 4 children that are business owners, and one's a chef, so I know it can do it, and I know these young people are hungry for jobs, they're hungry to do something.
Thank you, Edna. Oh, sorry, are you done? You have 10 more seconds.
Oh, and then I just want to encourage them. I want to encourage them. I want to encourage them to start their own businesses.
All right, thank you. We're going to turn to Dan with the same question. shortage of workers and struggle to operate at full capacity, some businesses. What will you do to address the chronic shortage of workers in northern Manitoba? 2
Well,
minutes.
sorry. Well, I think we've seen a really nice initiative. You know, once Rebecca Chartrand was able to win the federal riding there, you know, and we're seeing with this Liberal government, we're seeing Carney making announcements. We're seeing investments start to trickle in to the Port of Churchill. So, you know, as an MLA and as, you know, representing the people in this constituency, what's going to bring economic growth and economic development? You know, we don't want to rely on government funding directly. We need to go and find investors. So what I do this every day in my work and in my current role, but you know, we find those opportunities and we match investors with those opportunities. And then to help address the labor shortages, you know, the Northwestern Manitoba Immigration Services, they do amazing work right now. As Malik can probably speak to that. That's a whole other conversation though. But what I would do in each of the communities and throughout the constituency is, you know, get those conversations going. We have, you know, we've seen over the last few years in Canada a large influx of immigration coming in, and a lot of these people are stuck down in the urban areas, down in the big cities where work is maybe a little bit tighter. There's not as many job opportunities. So I'd really focus, you know, working with key stakeholder groups in the constituency, in the various communities, and try to line these up. You know, if we can find a group of people willing to move up here to the north, maybe we can, you know, work with immigration, get some sponsorship up here so they're not worried about getting their work permits relapsed, having to leave the community after they get established.
30 seconds.
And help fill some of those gaps and fill that void and introduce people who maybe, you know, weren't looking at the PAW or looking at Peguis or looking at some of these communities as a place to live. Now they're here, they're working, their kids are going to school, you know, they're contributing and they're building a life and a community for themselves at the same time. So, I only got 3 seconds. Sorry, I used up all my time. That's okay.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Same question to Jennifer. How would you address the chronic shortage of workers in northern Manitoba?
Well, I know that we do need to educate and train people and have them ready, even in high school and coming out of high school. I served at the governing council with the University College of the North, and the need is there. Being part of the chief and council and working in the community, you see that people need to be ready when they're talking about big projects coming through. We can continue to support forestry, mining, tourism, that clean energy, and as what was mentioned, I think it's on everybody's mind is the Port of Churchill. There are big projects that are and opportunities that are going to be coming, and we need to be ready for them. And you know, we have the Manitoba Indigenous Crown Corporation. We have what like was mentioned, to create the opportunities for the young people and create those good paying jobs in our area. And when I say our area, it's the entire area of the Pas-Kamisak. And it's not just the Pas. But when you do look at northern Manitoba, you know, we're looking at over 70% of Indigenous people. And we need to have them ready, as well as the rest of the constituency ready to do these jobs. We're chronically looking for people to fill these roles. Even in our own home community, we're looking for tradespeople to
30
come and
seconds.
fill a role. And you know, we're encouraging people to do that post-secondary, to go into a trade, to get the training, to work in a mine or do the forestry, and even work on the rail line to go up to the Port of Churchill. Port of Churchill is one of the most important topics that have come up as of late, and we need to be prepared. And I want to make sure that our constituents are ready for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wally, you are next. Same question. How would you address the chronic shortage of workers?
Yes, I'm a businessman, and as I said in my introduction, right now we have about 100 workers inside of Churchill. And the way I do that is because I realize we don't live inside of a bubble. We actually compete with labor across Canada and obviously internationally as well, as one of the members, Dan, had mentioned with immigrant labor. So what I do is I actually offer a higher wage. We also provide housing and room and board, essentially, for the employees that we have. And we create conditions that they like. If you're walking in downtown Nepal, you have to be cognizant of the fact that we live in a riding, in a society where addictions is a big problem. And the failure of the NDP and the NDP-PC coalition to deal with that has made it a very negative environment to have new workers coming to the PAW. I would suggest that the government should leave businesses alone and allow them to do the things that they do best, and that is they lift everybody up. When they offer jobs, they lift everybody up. And the way you create new jobs, and I would say that Jennifer alluded to this, and that is the timber industry, pulp and paper, of course. There is the possibility of opening a new mine at Talbot Lake. There's a new mine. You would have hundreds of millions of dollars of new money coming into the PAW, into OCN, into Moose Lake. My goodness, we don't have we don't have Rolex dealers in the PAW, but you don't need Rolex dealers because we've got other problems. But if we had a few hundred new employee jobs created where they're clearing $150,000 to $250,000 in a year's salary, I bet that there'd be a lot of happy people that would want to come to the PAW, and people who are unemployed right now who would come would take those jobs.
Thanks, Wally. You're at your time. We're going to turn to Dan for a healthcare question first. We've been advocating for a new hospital for more than 25 years. We have one of the oldest hospitals in the province, in the PAW. The new primary care clinic to be named in honor of Amanda Lathlen has been announced. What firm timelines will you fight for the clinic? And where do you stand on the replacement of the PAW Health Complex itself?
Well, I'm super ecstatic that for the third time that this clinic has been announced, but enough with the announcements. It doesn't matter which party is trying to use it as an election propaganda. Let's just get shovels in the ground. Let's get this done. At the last announcement, 2030 was the estimated timeline. That's still, 4+ years out. That doesn't help anybody right now. I understand things take time, but we need to actually see progress here. It's time to put the shovels where our mouths are, right? So as far, and the PAW hospital here, it does an amazing job considering how old the facilities are. And, maybe someone can correct me here if I'm wrong. I believe it's one of the only the hospitals in the province that still has a coal burner in it. So it's time for an upgrade. It's time for an update, and given, just focusing on the PAW hospital specifically, it's such a big catchment area. We serve people here from all over the constituency, from all over the north. We need to make this a priority to get this modernized, to get the services we need here. And so we need a lot of healthcare improvements. I talk to people all the time, and traveling, if they're lucky, traveling 4 hours to Dauphin or 4 hours to Thompson to get something done that can be done here. If not, they're going to Winnipeg. That's 3 days out of your week to go for a 10-minute appointment sometimes. Get referred to somebody down there.
30 seconds.
A day of travel there, a day of travel back. So that adds expenses onto, the voters, the taxpayers themselves, but then also on the healthcare budget, that adds an immense expense that could be completely eliminated if we just focused on delivering core healthcare services right here in the constituency.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Jennifer, you're next.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've been going to a lot of communities on the campaign trail, and there's so many nations and communities that are taking it upon themselves to be creative in how they're going to address healthcare. But I do want to mention that the latest development within the NDP party is that over 4,000 health professionals have been hired, and it's rebuilding the healthcare system that was in sore need of rebuilding. And we know that there are so many difficulties of going south to just go to an appointment. It takes a lot of effort, time, money, And some people can't even leave because they can't find childcare and that type of thing. We need to rebuild and increase our services here and for our constituency. It's we strengthen the healthcare services closer to home, and we need to ensure that we're addressing the catchment area. And there's so many different facilities that are serving other areas that aren't even in their catchment area, because they're starting to make sure that they have the right things in place. What we did at one point with the Pasquat Cree Nation was the cost of doing nothing, and it was a study of
30 seconds.
how what would happen if we continued the way things were going, and it wasn't working. So it's nice to see that the NDP are creating and increasing the number of healthcare professionals and services that are going to be in the area. And yes, that clinic is going to be coming, and I really look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wally, same question. The clinic and the PA Health Complex. You're on mute. Oh, you double clicked. You're still on mute. And reset the timer, please, Abdulmalik. We could, Wally, while you're figuring that out, we could turn to.
I think I got it.
There you go. You got her.
Yeah,
Okay.
the buttons were switched away. Yeah, thank you for your patience, everybody.
Yep.
I was there when Vic Taves made the first announcement. I think this was back in, got to be like 2011 or 2012. Whenever the first announcement was, they said it was going to be happening very shortly. And here we are 10 years later, or 15 years later. We're broke. We don't have any money. And we've refused under this government and frankly the whole PC NDP coalition to open new mines and to use the resources in the north in a fair and equitable way, which may include opening up the Natural Resource Transfer Act. But we have not used the resources to create the wealth that we need in order to afford healthcare. I would just say, you know, if this present government has added 4,000 new people to the healthcare system, then everything should be fixed. I don't see that happening. I don't see any change in healthcare actually over the last few years. Recently, a year ago, I had to take my daughter to the States for a very serious operation. I paid $200,000 out of cash because the doctor here said that within 5 years, if you don't do anything, she'll be in a wheelchair. And they said we can't even begin to think of the time frame of what we would need in order to get her into the operation room that she needed. So
30 seconds.
We're broke. Yeah. So we need to open up our resources. That means permits. And if it takes me as your MLA with my sleeping bag, sleeping in front of the minister's office and insisting that this new mine project gets a permit, in spite of the fact that the NDP and Wab Canoe has signed a document called the LEAP Manifesto, which says no digging, no drilling for resources. I will camp in front of the minister's office until he says yes. And I'll do that because I'm a very persistent guy.
All right. Thank you, Wally.
Thank you.
Edna, same question about the healthcare. You're on mute. You're still on mute there. We've all lost the mute button.
Hi.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Like, it's just, I think it's older people. Healthcare, you know, all the communities that I've been to, that's all we hear about is healthcare. Some of the young people come into the city, come into the PA, they can't get back home when, you know, they should be, there should be proper healthcare in their communities. I lived in three First Nations communities. So many of my friends died from sepsis. I was actually in the hospital for sepsis because the nurse sent me home with Tylenol. And that's all they seem to be doing is sending you home with Tylenol. And it's very sad, you know, this world that we live in nowadays, it should not be like that. So all the communities are talking about healthcare. That new clinic that the NDP just announced, shovels were in the ground 5 years ago. That clinic should have been built, but it was put on hold for whatever reason. And now it's a campaign promise. We're going to do it, but not till 2013. Like, how many more people are going to be, you know, without proper health care? And yes, the hospital, something needs to be done there. We need a new hospital right now. If you go in there, it's being used as a safe injection site. You can go get your stuff, that your needles or whatever you need, and people can't get in there because a lot of them are afraid of the people. So we need an addictions place. We do not need a safe injection site.
30 seconds.
So I just, you know, this is, I really want to work on this. I will really fight for this. We need to get our health care, and with 4,000 workers, like, where are they? Where are they hiding them? Because I certainly do not see them in the communities.
All right.
So,
Thanks, Edna.
yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Jennifer, you're up next for the first person to talk about the next piece here, and it's about small business and the cost of living. Cost of living continues to squeeze both workers and small business. What is your approach to affordability and the minimum wage framework so that wages keep pace with costs?
Like I had mentioned, I like what the NDP has already talked about and has planned for the cost of living and the price of groceries and no tax on the gas, and really making living affordable. And that was one of the things that really drew me to want to run for this party, because it really is looking after Manitobans, but especially families. And I really, really enjoyed seeing that. I'm trying to remember the second part of the question.
How would and
Oh, small
basically,
business.
yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, and I know it was mentioned before, small business and non-franchised businesses in the area are extremely important. They support local people, they support our economy, and our dollars should be turning over at least 2 to 3 times in our community, and not leaving the community. We need the dollars to be supporting our community and making sure that we have a very strong, healthy economy and local economy, and supporting those people who are the entrepreneurs, who are the ones that are getting out there and seeing the need and providing that need. And we see right now, we have a few businesses that are leaving, and some of the restaurants, and we need to make sure that we have the opportunity for them to go ahead and to
30
continue.
seconds.
Okay, I can't see the clock.
Yeah, the clock, I have backup.
Okay. I just want to make sure that people know that they are supported, and that small and local business is really an extremely important part of our economy. And we need to know that people need to know that they're being supported, and that their skills and their resources are very valued and needed in our community. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wally, what's your approach to affordability and the minimum wage framework so wages can keep pace with costs?
Yeah, recently, door knocking in the paw, came across the sign that Giant Tiger is going to be closing very soon, at the end of this month, actually. So technically, in a couple of weeks' time, you will not be able to buy pants in the paw. Now, you could go over to OCN, I get it, but in the paw, you will not be able to buy pants. Now, that almost sounds like the butt of a joke or something, but it's no joke, because small businesses in the paw are struggling. and they're struggling because there's no expansion on the big business side. Now, Canadian craft paper, that is a bright spot, and I've mentioned while campaigning that we need to upgrade the tote roll, but I understand the designation has been changed, and that Saskatchewan has to make do some work on their side as well. But we need the wood pulp coming in from that province to help Canadian craft produce the paper that is in demand, and it's profitable, and it's paying good wages. And the other side of this would be, if Giant Tiger is closing, I'm sure, I know at least one of the other leaders, Abhi Khan, has been in Nepal, and I'm sure the First Minister has been in Nepal as well. Why would they not think about picking up the phone and saying, hey, calling the head office and saying, hey, what can we do to prevent you from leaving?
30 seconds.
That's what they should be saying to every small business owner in Nepal and in the riding, is what can we do to help you? And instead, what you actually get from this government is they are working hard to destroy small business. I don't know how many people have owned small businesses before, but mine is still considered a small, maybe medium-sized business. I know that that small businesses contribute in the most efficient and effective way.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Wally.
Good.
Edna, same question. What is your approach to affordability and the minimum wage framework so wages keep up with costs?
Like I said before, I've been a small business owner for 30 years. I've opened up 3 businesses. My 2 sons are running one each. I'm running one in Riding Mountain National Park. And I try and encourage other entrepreneurs. You can do this. Like I said, the small businesses are the backbone. They're the ones, they're the ones that keep the economy going. And right now in the PAW, people are buying up some of these small businesses, and everybody has a right to something. But the people that are buying the small businesses are not hiring local people. They're just not. And so our young people, our people that come out of university, there's no jobs for them. And we need to keep those businesses opened. And with the minimum wage going up, it's very hard for small businesses to hire a bunch of people. But we try. I do a lot of piecework to keep some people working. I do have some employees that, I pay them. I try to pay them way above minimum wage, but it's very, very hard when you have a small business. And what was the other part of that question?
Just how do you keep pace with costs? How can wages
yeah,
keep
it's
pace?
very hard. Okay. With the food thing that the NDP is doing, they're doing the taxes off of junk food. Our Indigenous people do not need any more junk food. We've got too much.
30 seconds.
We've got too much people with diabetes, and there's nobody to take care of them. There is no health care. So to me, that's a lose-lose situation. There's no win-win there. Now, we want to change that. And I want to change that. I want to help change that.
Thank you, Ed.
And, and to encourage our people.
All right. Thank you, Edna. Dan?
There, found my mute button quick there. No, a couple of points. I mean, big picture wise, my view on government is that government needs to, set the rules and regulations to make business environment and economic development fair and equitable, and everybody has the same opportunity to create something for themselves and their family. So the way I would like to approach that in this constituency is we need to create favorable economic conditions by way of incentivizing people to want to take that risk and take that challenge on and really, create that opportunity for themselves. So whether that incentive looks like, working with the municipalities to create, tax abatement or something that's going to, offset some of the costs of startup capital. But ultimately, I mean, there's going to be a lot of good ideas that business owners and employees of companies and everything that are already floating around the constituency. So, one thing I would look to do is is really listen. Just shut my mouth and listen. Let those ideas come forward. Go around the constituency, talk to different people, and hear their ideas. And when we find the right ideas, line those up, put them together, and and create packages that incentivize economic development in the north. And we need to create those economic conditions where then companies are, small to medium to large size corporations and partnerships
30.
are creating a profit, so then they can afford to pay people, a livable wage. Minimum wage, when it was first introduced, was supposed to be the minimum wage that you could be paid and provide, shelter, food, activities for your kids. And, the minimum wage right now absolutely does not do that. It has not kept pace with inflation. Inflation is out of control with huge deficit spending at all levels of government. So it really starts at the ground, incentivizing economic development in our communities, in the constituency.
Thank you, Dan. We're about halfway through.
Really?
Do we need a breath? Okay, here we go. We're on to the next question. Wally, you're up next. We're going to talk about Indigenous economic development. Indigenous-led development is central to our region's future. Examples include Indigenous and community ownership of Arctic Gateway Group and the new Manitoba Crown Indigenous Corporation for the Churchill Corridor. How will you work with Indigenous communities and businesses to make sure they help shape, benefit from the province's economic development?
Well, thank you. So Indigenous development, I want all people to thrive. I want all people to develop business. And specifically, I've made the pitch to the First Minister of this proposal to have several pipelines for natural gas and for crude oil to be delivered with a utility corridor across northern Saskatchewan and Alberta into Manitoba, and would terminate at the Nelson River, not the Churchill River. There's a bunch of business reasons why you would have something like that going to the Nelson River. It would put the PAW on the map. It would be $100 billion development. And even the First Minister, when he was in Churchill, touting his very limited natural gas by rail proposal, he said then that it would increase the GDP. I believe he said 7%. I think it's with this proposal, the total buy-in for the proposal, $100 billion, we would see over 10%, a 10% increase in our GDP. First Nations, because of the proximity to the project, they would be the massive beneficiaries of this proposal. And again, it goes back to my original premise in my introduction and some
30
of the
seconds.
follow-up questions, is that everything revolves around the fact that right now we're broke. And we're broke because we have an NDP government and a coalition together with the official opposition that is not providing any economic development, whether it's mining, forestry, or this project, which would put the PAW completely on the map, and you would have a boom across northern Manitoba that would lift up everybody in Manitoba.
Thank you, Wally.
Thank you.
Edna, you're next on this one. How will you work with Indigenous communities and businesses to make sure they benefit and help shape the province's economic development?
Well, I have been working on Indigenous communities for a long time. And when I'm in the communities, I try and encourage the people to go back to school, get some training. There's jobs out there. And I'm going to keep doing that, is keep encouraging them. And especially with this, the jobs that are coming through there, you need to, have some education to do that. And we really do. And you know what? And our people, they want to work. They really do.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, you know what? Can you just repeat that again? I just lost my train of thought here.
That's okay. How will you work with Indigenous communities and businesses to make sure they help shape and benefit from the province's economic development?
Yes, far too long, our Indigenous communities have been left behind in everything. They give them a few crumbs should keep them happy. I was in one community where the roads are all paved in that one Indigenous community. And then everybody else has been asking for paved roads, and they keep saying, yeah, we're going to pave your roads next time. We're going to pave them next time. And then I asked them, I said, how did you get this road paved? They said, you know how we got it paved? It was the PC government that did it. It was the PCs that did it. And I'm sure
30
everyone knows
seconds.
what community that I'm talking about. So I would be there, all these communities, to encourage them. University College of the North is willing to go and train people. And that's what our people need right now, is training for some of these big jobs that are coming. But I want to encourage small businesses to take care of the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves.
Okay, thank you, Edna. Dan, same question.
Well, there absolutely, any First Nation that is going to be impacted by any development, any pipelines or anything, they absolutely need to be consulted. They need to be at the front of the table, very important stakeholders in these projects. I spearheaded this project where I was going into remote communities up north and opening bank accounts for people who had never had the opportunity, never had bank accounts even before. And when, it was a shocker to me when I would fly into these communities and, there's people living in Canada, in the province of Manitoba, that don't have running water, that, economic development has completely avoided those communities. And so, we need to change the economic landscape here and make sure that everybody in this province, regardless of where you're living, has a fair economic stake, has a fair shot at it. So, as far as, developing anything going through any Indigenous territory, it's first and foremost, absolutely paramount that they are at that table. They are at those discussions, and they have a say. They have a vote. They are, they're going to be driving the success by being involved in those conversations. Well, sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Basically how you were going to make sure Indigenous communities and businesses are part of that economic development. So.
Yeah, just by making sure everybody has a seat at that table, everybody has input in those conversations and a final say in what actually happens with the development.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. And again, this is for Jennifer. How will you work with Indigenous communities and business to make sure they help shape and benefit from the province's economic development?
I want to start off by saying that I really like what's being said by the NDP right now, especially with advancing economic reconciliation, and that's through meaningful partnerships, sitting down and talking and having that seat at the table. We can support Indigenous-led businesses and entrepreneurs, and bring them into the fold and have them ready for major economic projects that are coming through. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we need people to be trained, they need to be educated, and they need to be ready. They need to know what's coming up and what jobs are available and when and where. Like was said, we all want to work. We all want that job, and we want to keep it here in Manitoba. We want to create the opportunities that all the nations are going to have that long-term prosperity, not just for the timeline of the project, but to have major economic prosperity in the community. We want to build Manitoba together. We want all of us to be pulling. We want to be supporting one another, and we want to make sure that everybody has the equal opportunity to do well in this economy.
30.
Sorry?
30 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
25 seconds, yeah.
Okay. But I really know that we have that opportunity. We have the resources. We have the young people. We have experienced people. We have people who have gone to trade schools. We have carpenters. We have everyone who's even willing to go back to school. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer. Edna, you're first on this next one. It deals with education, training, and aligning post-secondary education with industry needs supports economic growth. Graduates have to be equipped for jobs in our region, including heavy-duty mechanics, trades, healthcare aides, administrative positions, and on and on. How will you foster stronger collaboration between University College of the North and local industry?
I've always been an advocate for University College of the North. Even when I worked on some of our First Nations, that University College of the North will go to these communities and they will train the people. Where my brother's lodge is sitting on and on Cormorant Lake, that was the site for Smoot Brothers that did the heavy duty mechanics, that did the heavy duty training for people in the north. So, you know, University College of the North will go any place to train people. And, you know, and I'm an advocate for telling people you need to have an education. I know one place that I spoke at, some of the young people said, you just said, stay in school too many times. I said, the reason I said that is because I wanted to sink in. You need to stay in school. You need to get that education to get that job. And so I'm a very big advocate of that. And, you know, and I know our people need a little bit of encouragement. They need to see that they are valued, that they are worth something, that they can do something once they put their mind to it. And this is what I want to see on our First Nations and, you know, in the other communities. So I am a strong advocate for that. When I was on boards like MPI,
30 seconds.
On MPI Efficiency Manitoba, the Winnipeg Police Board, I went to these communities and I talked to people about that. Like some people, because of the MPI, they can't get a driver's license because they have a fine. You can call MPI, they will let you pay that fine off till it's paid off instead of paying it in one lump sum. That's what I did when I was on the MPI board. Plus, MPI goes to the reserves and does the training there, so people don't have to spend the money to come to Winnipeg or come to the Paw or to Thompson. They can actually do it in their home communities.
Thanks, Edna.
Okay, and
Yep.
indigenous tourism. We have been. I'm on the board.
Edna, we need to move on to the next person. Sorry, your time is up on that one. So next would be Dan. How would you foster stronger collaboration between University College of the North and local industry?
Well, I mean, we got a gem of an institution up here with UCN. I think what we need to, you know, be able to do though is pivot and roll out new strategies, roll out new programs in collaboration with the government and with UCN. You know, like maybe we could look at an institute of housing for the North, you know, facilitate that in UCN. Then we're training our carpenters, you know, all the specialized trades that you need, train them here in the North, fill in needs in the North with people here in the North. So, I mean, UCN is a great institution, but I think we could leverage it even further to help in the constituency, in the North, in the province as a whole, with, you know, being at the cutting edge of skill trades, developing, learning, educating the youth, educating people here that don't, you know, be able to take your schooling here, don't have to go south or east or west or wherever, can do it here, stay here, and then translate that into you know, working here. So I think there's more that we could do, more synergies that could be created with local industries, with UCN to really, you know, develop, roll out new programs, address the needs of the North. Like, why not have a housing institute here where we're developing, you know, specialized housing that's more suited for the North, you know, stuff that's getting built down south and sent up here. We have mold issues up here in the North compared to down south. We have different humidity levels. So all these things here, the specializations, we could do this here. We could do this here in-house in UCN. There's more we could do with that. Sorry, just to wrap that up. Same with the food strategy. Why don't we look at that with UCN as well, right? There's so much we could do with this great institution we have here locally that can then turn around and benefit the North as a whole.
Thank you, Dan. Jennifer?
Hi.
Hi.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure, absolutely. How will you foster stronger collaboration between UCN and local industry?
Thank you. University College of the North has two very large campuses and then smaller campuses all across Manitoba, northern Manitoba. And we do listen. Oh, I shouldn't say I'm not a board member anymore, but the NDP do listen to what the needs of the community are. And when I was part of the University College of the North, I know that the university goes to meetings, they go to conferences, they go to communities, and they listen to what is needed and what's coming up. And I know that we had different opportunities to train for certain projects that are coming, and now there's even more opportunity to listen to what is coming up. What we're starting to hear as an NDP government, I guess I would say I can't wholly speak on behalf of the NDP, but also as a former UCN governing council member, is that sometimes there's even new positions that never existed before, and we need to keep up. We need to be sure that we're ready. We need to know what is expected, and every facet of an industry is covered. We can get heavy duty mechanics. We have carpenters. We have people in the culinary arts who can provide for the food camps. We
30
have
seconds.
we have all types of needs in the community, and we can definitely work with UCN to create what's needed for the North. It's a highly dynamic community and institution, and I know we can be prepared and ready for that. So UCN is ready for it from what I've experienced, and we can definitely go ahead and help with that. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wally, same question. How will you foster stronger collaboration between UCN and local industry?
Well, first of all, I'll just make a statement, and that is Elvis was still alive and the Beatles were still writing songs when the NDP came into power. We have trades training, but for instance, in one avenue, we have 5 times as many schools teaching welding as we have here in Manitoba, which is only 1. And what the NDP government has recently done is they've changed the ratio for apprenticeships so that you have actually end up with less trades training in schools in Manitoba because of regulations that this government has put in place. I've always believed in a good job and a good paying job and jobs that are relevant. We do need heavy duty mechanics. We do need welding. We do need culinary trades. And I've got some working for me that are producing the best food in the world. That's at least so my clients say, which come from around the world. I believe that a good job not only does provide income for people, but it's also a form of human dignity. A good job is when you wake up in the morning. Let's say, for instance, one of my employees doesn't show up, and I call him up and say, "Hey, get your butt down here. I need you." Because if they didn't have that job, whatever addiction or whatever problem they might have had would continue on, and it would continue with
30 seconds.
And that's why we need good jobs. And the way we get good jobs, my friend Daniel there, the banker, he said some very relevant things, and that is you got to match up capital with investors and an investment opportunity. And that's why in the PAW, the way we get ahead, it's really cool, is the way you create wealth is by opening up the ground and taking things from the ground. We're literally on top of our wealth.
Thank you, Wally. Dan, you've got the next question first. It's about infrastructure. The Chamber and our member businesses have called for a joint consultation on extending water and sewer services along the Highway 10 North Commercial Corridor. This would open the door to business expansion and new investment. What provincial support would you pursue for municipal infrastructure projects like that one?
Well, any infrastructure projects now, especially in the post-COVID area, the cost is astronomically high. So we can't shoulder that burden alone. We can't foot the bill entirely alone, in looking for a future rate of return that may or may not materialize. So, I would start knocking on doors, going around, finding support for this project, finding opportunities that then we can bring in those investment dollars, as well as advocating for government support to offset the costs for the municipalities and, the ones doing the digging, putting the infrastructure in and paying the bill. It's extremely expensive. So we need to be really thoughtful and, really cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure that we've uncovered, every aspect about that and really get a good understanding on what the cost entails and, and the tangibles with those kind of projects. But it is absolutely needed. So I would, go about knocking on doors, find that capital, find those funds to help offset the cost for the municipalities here in the constituency to get this infrastructure in. So then we can see these businesses opening up, seeing the shoppers come in and seeing the dollars trickle into the communities.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. So again, just to repeat the question, Jennifer, the Chamber and member businesses have called for a joint consultation on extending water and sewer services along Highway 10 North, the commercial corridor. This would open the door to business expansion and new investment. What provincial support would you pursue for municipal infrastructure projects like this one?
This is a really wide-ranging and comprehensive question. And I know that we would need to sit down with all the stakeholders involved and the area. Like I mentioned before, this is a tri-community area. And when we're talking specifically about Highway 10, we know that on one side is Opaskwayak and the other side is rural municipality and the town of the Paw, going up to certain areas. And we need to sit down with each other, perhaps share costs, perhaps share infrastructure. It would be something I would definitely take to the table and have our minister look at it and talk about it and see what possibilities are there. We need to work together. We talk about, it not working. It's going to be huge costs for one area to do it while the other is already has the infrastructure. If there's a way for partnership, we should be doing that. And it would really be helpful to sit down at the table and have a good discussion on current projects and future projects, future possibilities. We're talking about, when we talk about projects that are coming, there's got to be a long range plan. We need to be sure we're all on the same page on how we're going to be working on it and how we're going to make sure that we all benefit from it, that we're all pulling together and that we all benefit for everything that's going to be coming and that is occurring. So I think it would
30 seconds.
Okay, I think it would really be beneficial to see what type of partnerships we could take part on. Tripartite connections, working in collaboration to make these projects a success. Because if it's successful, we all benefit from it. We don't want one to fail because it's not going to benefit anybody if someone fails. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wally, you're next on that one. So what provincial support will you pursue?
Yeah, in speaking with the mayor the other day, he had mentioned that the PAW pays for its own RCMP, which comes at great expense. And the PAW often ends up with everybody else's problems. And a jurisdiction like Flin Flon, apparently, because of the size of the community, doesn't pay for it. It becomes a provincial expense. So, to ask the PAW right now, and I'm not saying we are, but if we were to ask them to provide more infrastructure going up Highway 10, I think that they would be all in, but they need the money to do it. There is actually a housing demand in the PAW area, but in order to build, you actually have to have the infrastructure in place to build more housing. And there is a way to do that. But the provincial government, again, I've mentioned it probably 5 times. People are getting sick of hearing it, but the government is broke. This government spends billions more than it receives, and then they go hat in hand to Alberta and says, we want more transfer payments. And then they criticize the Alberta Premier for wanting to do business with Manitoba. So we have to have a business attitude in this province, and the First Minister needs to be put in a place, and I would
30
be that
seconds.
guy who can put him on notice that you have to open up the resources first for First Nations for sure, and then for everybody else to benefit. We have to have those access to those resources. And I mentioned that 2 or 3 times already. Copper mine, Talbot Lake, Tote Road, get that upgraded, get it paved so we can bring paper wood chips for the paper mill year round at the same rate, and do it for a cheaper price.
Thank you, Wally. Edna, you're last on this question. What provincial support would you pursue for municipal infrastructure projects? And you're on mute. There you go.
Okay. Well, I would pursue all avenues. I talked with the mayor too, and we talked about, taxes, about the pause being, the taxes there are so high. And there's some people that are not paying taxes. So this is where the infrastructure money comes from, where the dollars come from. So, I think maybe the province has to step up a bit more and not just make promises just because it's election time. We need some real boots on the ground. We need some real work, some real, not just empty promises. And I'm talking about the tote road. Going from Manitoba to Saskatchewan, it's kind of okay. It's Saskatchewan that needs to get their road fixed. But that has been an election promise for so long already, to get that road fixed. And seriously, now is the time we need to get it fixed, because we do need that road. And with the new houses, the infrastructure, they told us how much that was going to cost. So you need all people on board. It just can't be just one. And governments have to work together. They do have to work together.
30 seconds.
They have to quit. I've been to question period a couple times. They gotta quit doing this schoolyard bullying and fighting. They have to work together. It doesn't matter who's in government. I know Wob's in government, but we need someone on the other side of the table to bring these questions up, to put him at tasks, to really get him to do something positive.
All right. Thank you, Edna. We're going to move on. We've heard this topic come up already in a lot of the answers. It's housing. Affordable housing remains a key issue. 55 plus housing with amenities for seniors, realistic paths for first-time home buyers, including getting a mortgage on a mobile home without a 30% down payment. Construction costs mean a new condo can carry the same price tag as most homes in our area. Those are just examples. How will you support organizations to be better equipped with resources and programs to ensure sufficient housing for the future? And this one goes to Jennifer first.
Sorry about that. Like I had mentioned before, it's partnership and listening, and making sure that we're using what resources we have and see where we may need to shore up in the future. I know that we talked about repairing existing housing. There are some places where the houses are not ready to be inhabited, but they could be. And that's really something that we really need to make sure we're using. If we can, partner with Indigenous communities, municipalities, and see where we can go to make sure that the housing is building up. housing is needed everywhere. It's not just Manitoba, it's everywhere. And it's a solution that we can all be working on together. Um, you know, what was coming up a lot was there are seniors that are advancing even their age in the PAW, and they want to stay in the PAW, but they don't have a place to stay. They don't want to deal with shoveling snow. They don't want to mow the lawn. They want to be at home, but they don't want to do the home care. And that was something that had been coming up more than one occasion. And
30 seconds.
I just want to make sure that they're being heard. Um, we need to the housing market, and I mean housing to be stable. We need to have houses that are strong and secure and will last a long time. And we need to help people to understand what it means to be a homeowner and how to help them to maintain a home in a good, efficient way. And that's something we could also be helping people with. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just a quick pause to remind people, if you're watching virtually, to start sending in your questions for the question period coming up soon. Wally, you're next on this one. How will you support organizations to be better equipped with resources and programs to ensure sufficient housing for the future?
We need a new government program. No, I'm kidding. What we need resources, financial resources, and Daniel can speak to this. There are programs available for low interest housing already on the market. We can expand it and make it more readily available for people. And again, going back to economic development, if you're bringing in some of the big players, like Hud Bay Minerals, for instance, Talbot Lake, it's probably about the 8th time I've mentioned that. It's a huge project. It's copper and I would say other metals as well. Copper is a big deal right now. Empty houses in Winnipeg has thieves going in there and stealing all the copper because copper is so valuable. Well, we've got copper available to OCN residents just a few miles to the east and to the Paw and Moose Lake. This is a lot of money. I'm talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of payroll. When you have that kind of money going into places like OCN, then the Otinica Mall, all those shuttered bays will open up. You're going to get some of the stores coming back. Also, Giant Tiger in the Paw might actually stay. If you had somebody who is advocating for resource development and won't accept no as an answer, because that's me. I won't accept no. I've been fighting the government all my life.
30 seconds.
Churchill, dealing with permits and dealing with regulations and such. We employ the most people in Churchill, and I mentioned that before. $500,000 payroll. Our people are not paid lousy wages. I've got guys making twice what I make because he's such a good employee. He's so valuable to me that I pay him $200,000 a year just to manage my business. There's people who make a lot of money because they're good at what they do. And let's capitalize on people, our human resources. Thank you.
Thanks, Wally. Edna, you're next on this one. How will you support organizations to be better equipped with resources, programs to ensure sufficient housing for the future?
You know, to own a house, to have your name on that house. I know our First Nations don't really own their own houses. They're always called ban houses. If you would give the people the deed to that house and say, this is your house, you need to take care of it. I think that would take care of a lot of the things that are happening with their homes. And I know it's you know, I could never own my own home. But it just in these recent years, I was able to purchase my own home. And this is what what they need. They need to be able to purchase their own home and take care of it themselves. There needs to be maybe more government programs, but not having them so that they're out of reach for the average person. And, with this NDP government, they say they're helping, 30, 60 years. We're still in the same boat. No, we need to have a change. I think we need to have a change. So if people would really think about that, let's do a change. Let's give somebody else a chance to come and sit opposite of that table and advocate for everybody, advocate for people so they can be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and
30 seconds.
their children will see what they're doing. I've worked hard all my life. My children seen that. Now 4 are business owners. One's a chef. It has to be you that's teaching them. You have to teach them.
Okay. Thank you, Edna. Dan, you're next on this one. How would you ensure sufficient housing for the future?
Well, first off, the end all be all isn't home ownership. It all depends on each individual situation. There's many instances that it actually makes more sense to rent than own a home. And there's lots of reasons behind that. But so, one thing that I would look at doing initially when I was going around canvassing in our constituency, even just here in the Paw, 2 or 3 houses on every single street that I was on was boarded up and nobody's home. Nothing happened with that property. So I went and looked online. And so I found out that our biggest landlord in this community is Manitoba Housing. So first and foremost, I would pull up Manitoba Housing and say, what are you guys doing? Why do you have this, this inventory of houses that's sitting here vacant and not being utilized? We have so many people that are so short for housing. Like I've had conversations with our CMP officers that are living in hotels trying to serve this community, this tri-community area, because they can't find a place to actually lay down roots. So, just to quickly get back to that. So owning a home isn't the end all be all solution to fix the housing crisis. We need more options for people. We need more units available. And, there's a lot of government agencies right now. Manitoba Housing, is getting put on notice. They have an inventory of houses that they need work. They're uninhabitable right now. But why is a government agency sitting on housing units that they're not doing anything with, but leaving them vacant and decrepit? So that would
30
be
seconds.
The first thing I would do, and that would free up, 20 to 50 houses alone in the Paw. And I'm sure if I went and looked at every other community, we'd see the same thing happening with Manitoba housing units sitting there vacant, boarded up. So that would be one place we could start. And then the other thing, I would absolutely look at utilizing, maybe we can create that program with UCN that's going to develop housing. We're going to train skilled laborers that can build the houses locally, which is going to reduce our costs, having to import everything from down south, including work crews, paying for travel, paying for per diems for meals.
Thanks, Dan. All right. We have possibly one question left. We're going to wrap around 8:30 to go to the online questions if we have some. If we don't have any online questions, we'll continue on with more of the questions we have here prepared. The next starts with Wally, and it's about community safety, addictions, homelessness. Locally, some businesses have been forced to restrict access to their properties. Needles are being found in public spaces, and there's no adequate place for people who are unsheltered to go. Given the link between substance abuse, crime, and homelessness, what strategy will you champion to confront rising substance abuse in the North?
That's a great question. And the number one, the starting point is identifying the problem. And the problem is not homelessness. The problem is drug abuse, substance abuse, if you want to use a wider term. Yes, it does lead to people that are living on the street, and it also leads to crime. And this has been a problem that was initially started by our Prime Minister Trudeau when he changed the rules with regards to how long you can keep people in jail and how serious some of these issues are. So, a police officer, let's say in downtown Winnipeg or in the Paw, by the time he's finished processing that person to go into a jail cell, they have legal rights that bring them back out onto the street within the time of processing the paper. So the law has to be changed, And the attitude also has to be changed provincially. Right now, we have a government that is encouraging safe injection sites. There was a problem that was introduced already over a decade ago when we legalized marijuana. What we ended up doing is we sent out a message to society that said drugs is fun. And the people
30 seconds.
the people who sell illegal drugs, what they needed to do is create greater addictions by adding meth and fentanyl to marijuana, and now creating a much worse drug epidemic. So the way that we deal with this problem is through the RCMP, by taking these people off the streets, because that's the safest way to deal with them, is get them in a cell with a bed, and that's safety away from the sexual and the physical abuse on the street, and put them in a safe place where they can get counseling and help.
Thank you, Wally. Edna, you're next on this one. What strategy will you champion to confront rising substance abuse?
Well, the first thing is I would talk to communities. They need to build healing lodges where people can be healed. Most people take drugs and alcohol is because they need to be healed inside. And the only way that they can do that is by is maybe the drugs or the alcohol. My dad was an alcoholic. And after he finally sobered up, after all these years, I said, Dad, why did you drink all the time? He said, to forget. You know, there's a lot of abuses that Indigenous people have suffered. It's not only in being in residential school, it's also about jobs that they wanted, but they couldn't get them because they were an Indian. Some of that has to go. We got to quit categorizing people. People are people. People need jobs. People need to be loved. They need to feel safe. And, you know, and I say no to safe injection sites. That is simply a no-no. I talk to some people that want to go to the hospital here and go see the doctor, but they have to go past the people that are, you know, getting their needles, getting their things to go and do their drugs. And you know, and that brings another thing with the health care too. Like HIV is on the rise. And most of it has to do with the drugs and alcohol. Now
30 seconds.
We need to build healing lodges where people can go, where they can stay, where they can get healed.
Okay, thank you, Edna. You finished? Yep.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Dan, what strategy would you champion to confront rising substance abuse in the North?
Well, I think a lot of substance abuse comes from depression, and a big cause of depression for some people is they don't necessarily have a drive or feel like they have a purpose. So one thing that I would look at doing is working with communities to create maybe create like a bit of a community plan where, say, if somebody's having issues with homelessness, they're loitering around town. Hey, you know what? Maybe we can put them to work a little bit and let's have them pick up garbage in the park, and we can pay them a little bit of money or help them find some transitional housing, and just start to give them a little bit of purpose and get some energy back, and focus on something that's good and positive instead of just being in this vicious cycle. Drink till you fall down, get up, do it again the next day, or wherever you can get your next fix from. So I think there's a lot that could be done, and we can't probably address all that in 2 minutes, but that would be one area where I would start to look at integrating them safely back into the community in a safe manner. They can contribute, even if it's something small, like cleaning up the parks for now, and then looking at a different project or something else. Give them a task, give them some purpose, and make them a part of the community, contributing back to that community, and get them on a different path. That would where my focus would be. Just reprimanding someone because they have an addiction problem, I don't think is always the answer. But we definitely need to do something different. You see it in every community now. It used to just be in the big cities, but now any town you're in, there's people facing housing issues that are on the street, and they're in a negative rut. They're in a depressive state, and they need some help. So I mean, we can't turn our shoulder, we can't turn our face away from these people. We need to help them get their feet back underneath them by going about various programs. There's lots we could do, though. That's where I would start.
All right, thanks, Dan. And Jennifer, you're last on this question. What will you do to confront the rising substance abuse in the North?
That is further investment in addictions treatment and recovery. Like I had mentioned, I spent 20 years working in federal corrections and had worked in the community. So I did also see provincial corrections and youth corrections. And the answer is not so finite and simple. There are so many facets to why people are addicted to what they're addicted to. And there needs to be everybody pulling together to try to alleviate some of the environment or what has caused the addiction. And some of it can be intergenerational, it can be personal, it can be environmental, and we need to make sure we're addressing that on every level. And I want to ensure that people know that, we can sit down and talk with each other, and it's not just one community, it's all communities. And we need to know maybe one community is being hit with one other addiction issue more than another. Addiction issues come all over from every facet, and we even deal with gambling addiction. We deal with alcohol, drugs. Some people even are addicted to social media and pornography. There's all types of addictions.
30 seconds.
And we need to ensure that we're listening and we're sitting with each other and we're investing in what's going to work most effectively with those in what area are being affected. And we need to ensure that the finances, the money is in place, the funding is in place to make sure that it happens. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks to everyone for going through all of those questions. We're going to switch over to some virtual questions that have come in to us from the people watching. And we're going to reduce the response time to a minute for these, okay? And Edna, you're first on the first question. On what issue would you be willing to publicly challenge your own party to defend this riding?
Oh my goodness. Can you just say that over again, please?
Sure. Yep. On what issue would you be willing to publicly challenge your own party to defend this riding?
To defend this riding, okay, our people in the North always say the PCs are not there for them. They're there for the Caucasian people, not for us. I would challenge them, and I've been challenging them. We need to go to the North more. We need to go and tell them that they matter, that we will be there for them. We're not just going to make promises. We're going to be there for them. We're going to listen to them. We're going to make a change. We will be the change.
30 seconds. All right.
Oh, I guess I must have talked too fast.
Nope, that's okay.
No, we will be the change. This is what I've been saying for years. We need to have something different. We cannot have the same old, same old. We need a change. And I think I can be that change.
All right. Thanks, Edna. Yeah, if you don't want to take the whole time, that's totally up to you. It's Dan is next on this question.
Well, honestly, I mean, if I'm fortunate enough to get voted in, I'm working for the constituents of this constituency. So I mean, whatever issue came up, if it was going to butt heads with the party, I would ride with my people. I don't know what particular issue maybe would come up. There's a lot of hunters in this constituency, so maybe on gun control. I'm a responsible hunter myself. I own lots of firearms, but there's a way to store them, and a time and a place for them, and they need to be regulated, and make sure that my kids don't have access to them. So I mean, I don't know if that would be one issue where that might come up, but
15 seconds.
When you're working for the voters, you're working for the voters, and if that means you're going to ruffle feathers in your party, then so be it. You're here for the voters.
All right, Jennifer?
We just announced a clinic, the Amanda Laughlin Memorial Clinic, and the date of opening is 2030. And I would challenge our party to open it sooner. I know that there was talk about having, it's not happening soon enough, and when we have that need, it's right there. We want it right now, but we want to do it right, and we want to take the time to do it right. But maybe we could step it up a year or two. That's the hope. And if I could add one more in there, it's to make sure that we're doing more on Highway 60, where everybody's traveling from our area to Winnipeg. We need that infrastructure to be safe for everybody that's using it, and that would be. Sorry, I went above and beyond and went to two, but it would be opening the clinic sooner and also for safer infrastructure, especially on number 60. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wally, same question.
Well, first I want to congratulate my fellow MLA candidates. Those were all good answers, every one of them. Jennifer, you did very well on that one. I would say, I think that most governments are loath to spend money on infrastructure development because they don't necessarily see the end of that development benefiting government in some specific way. So we spoke about this earlier on when you asked about the Highway 10 development, expanding sewer and water and such. I think that's very important. By expanding those services along Highway 10 and further, you're incentivizing other businesses to start in those areas to build work sites, other factories or places of business with that infrastructure money.
All right. Okay, next question. This one's going to go to Dan. What 3 measurable outcomes should voters use to judge your performance after 2 years? So what 3 measurable outcomes should voters use to judge your performance after 2 years? 1 minute.
I mean, we can boil it down to the 3 main topics of our conversation. Has there been improvements in healthcare? Has there been improvements in housing? Has there been economic development activity going on here? If, at the end of my tenure there, if we can put tick marks beside each of those things, then I'm happy with that. So based on those 3 metrics.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Next would be Jennifer.
Thanks. I know one of them is being upfront and presented, like taking attendance. You need to be available, and you need to be there when people are expecting you to be there. A lot of times going through this constituency and talking to people, they say, we only see the politicians when it's election time. And one of the things that I really want to make sure that is taken into account is how much I'm showing up and talking to you.
30 seconds.
And if we say we're going to do something, then do it. Then take that into account. We're talking about the clinic and that sort of thing, and looking at infrastructure. When we say we want to fix a road, then fix it. And those are things that can definitely be measured, and that's what I would ask to be measured against. So thank you.
All right. And next it would be Wally. What are the 3 measurable outcomes voters could judge you on after 2 years?
Very good question. I would say, have I come and spoken to each one personally? I believe very much in door knocking. I've door knocked virtually the entire North, with the exception of 3 communities. That means one-on-one, speaking with them and collating that, keeping track of what people's concerns are. I would want people to believe that they actually have access to me. And that means not necessarily spending so much time in the ledge.
30 seconds.
We have seen how dysfunctional that has become. I mean, Wop cares more, I think, about what his hair looks like than what Abby has to say. And you have this strange dichotomy happening in the ledge in the people's house. So that would be one, is am I communicating with them. Secondly, I would want to see what is infrastructure development as per what I have just mentioned. What kind of infrastructure is coming into the communities to make life better? And that means healthcare, that means housing, that means as well as jobs.
All right. Thanks, Wally.
All right.
And Edna, you're last on this one. What 3 measurable outcomes would voters use to judge your performance after 2 years?
Well, after 60 years of promises and not getting things done and making more promises, I would want to, if I'm going to say something, I will take it to the table. I will make sure it's being said. Healthcare, housing, jobs, more infrastructure. People need to know that we are working for them, and I will work for them. I will be there for
30
them.
seconds.
I will talk to them. I have been there talking to them. And I'm not just going to show up at election time. I will be there. We will have monthly meetings. We just need a chance to show them what we can do in the North.
Okay. Thank you. Next question is going to be answered first by Jennifer. First Nations patients continue to report racism, language barriers, and unsafe treatment in Manitoba's healthcare system. What specific changes will you pursue, and how will you demonstrate that patients are actually safer? So what specific changes will you pursue, and how will you demonstrate that patients are actually safer?
I really, really like this question, and I'm so glad that it's brought up. And it's something that I've heard all across my campaign trail, is that people even feel unsafe, unwanted, going to get healthcare. And that is something we really need to address on a very far-reaching, wide basis in regards to whoever is going to be serving people in any healthcare facility. We want to make sure that any healthcare person has that cultural sensitivity training. There has to be a group that addresses seriously complaints that are being brought to them. We need to ensure that the complaints are being heard and being addressed in a meaningful way. And I would really ensure that we have a voice at the table when it comes to complaints, and that would be anybody, but more so over what the Indigenous people are experiencing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wally, same question.
Yeah, so the question is how to overcome racism, easier transport and safety, or at least a perception of safety to all people that are accessing our healthcare system. There's a number of beefs that I have overall with how families and children are handled. Child and Family Services oftentimes can really overreach what they do. And that is especially true on First Nations communities. And it's kind of reminiscent of what happened back in the residential school days, where children were just forcibly taken from their parents and dealt with in whatever way the government deemed necessary.
30 seconds.
So I think we have to be more responsive to all. If that means an ombudsman or a complaint system, then and perhaps that does exist already. There are hundreds of cultures in Manitoba, so that we need to be respectful of all the cultures that are using our healthcare system, and there needs to be a transparency in how the healthcare workers work. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Wally. Edna, you're next on that one.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What specific changes will you pursue to the healthcare to make sure First Nations patients continue to feel safe with their treatment? And how will you demonstrate that patients are actually safer?
We do need better health care. A lot of the healthcare workers are overworked. And when you're overworked, you're tired, but our patients too, you know what, I know this firsthand, because I was on a First Nations working. I was sick. I went to the nursing station. She told me to go home. She said, you're not even from here. Go to Winnipeg and see your own doctor there. That's where I just about died from sepsis. And I had a doctor come and see me. She was of a different culture, an Asian culture. She said,
30 seconds.
if your heart stops, she said, what should we do? I said, well, it's not up to you. She says, well, you're old anyways. So that's the response that I got. So, when people are saying they're being discriminated against, they are. So we need to have some sensitivity training, but we also need more healthcare workers so people are not overworked.
Okay. Thank you, Edna. And Dan, same question.
Well, I think it would be useful then if there isn't already, and forgive me, I'm not a healthcare guy, so there could be something already kind of preliminarily in place. But I think a complaints management system, would enable, make sure it's accessible. You're a patient, as part of the information that you're given, there's always paperwork that you get, when you're at the hospital. In there would be information how to formally log a complaint. It's anonymous. You can put in as much information as there's no repercussions back on, the person who's filing the complaint, but then have a way to track that and document that and pinpoint, maybe there's certain areas or certain practitioners where this issue, is happening frequently. And then we can see that, we have the data on that, and then you can address that. So that would be one way I would look at, combating that, the feeling, of unsafe, not getting the adequate care that's needed. And then on the other side of that, though, too, I would make sure that we have enough healthcare professionals to, if someone's working a double shift,
Dan,
their patients, I see the timer just real quick. The patients is going to be wearing thin, so they're going to be harder to deal with too. So,
all right. Thanks, Dan. We have to keep rolling here to give everybody the equal amount of time. We have come to the end of the virtual questions now, and it's time to hear all of our candidates say whatever they want for closing statements. And we're going to go in the reverse order of when we started tonight. And so, Jennifer, you have the floor first, and you have 3 minutes for your closing statement.
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, I want to say that the NDP are not taking anyone for granted. And I will repeat that. We are not taking anyone for granted. We enjoy the good working relationship that we've had. It's been a strong, productive, and very good outcomes that we've had. And we have been listening, and we've been reacting, and we've been providing. I look for an open working relationship with all the constituents, ensuring inclusivity and understanding of who they are, where they come from. I will serve with integrity, fairness, and transparency. I really want to work with everybody. I want us all to pull together. We have a large population. We have people that are in northern Manitoba and the Pa-Ocean RM of Kelsey, all the way from Moose Lake down to Interlake, and even going into Peguis, Matheson Island, Pine Dock. Everybody presents their own concerns, but it's everybody that has to pull together. And we definitely want to work with everybody. Your age, race, creed, ability, your geographical location, youth, elders, everybody, your education, we all need to be working with each other. I know that we can be involved in every way. There are newborns that are going to be ready in 18 years to be working. We have high school students that are taking courses at UCN and crossing the stage at UCN before they even graduate high school because the opportunity is there. They're getting ready, and people are wanting to work. We need to have a healthy population. We need to provide the means to have a healthy population. We need an educated and trained workforce. And we need to ensure everybody has the ability to do the work because they do want to work. And I cannot stress enough how important it is that I hear you. This is a listening government. We want to sit at the table with you. I want to be your advocate. I want to speak on your behalf. I want to take the concerns to the table with Wab Canoe and advocate on your behalf and work for you. So that is what I want my role to be. I want to be very present and I want to be there. I want to be the person that you know that you can call and get an answer from or find out the information, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible in the fastest way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Wally, you're next. You have 3 minutes to do your closing statement.
Well, thank you. I'm representing the Keystone Party, and I know in northern Manitoba, this would be the first time that we've actually had a candidate in one of the northern ridings. I'm a northern man. I've been lived in the north all of my adult life. I've built a business here and raised my family here. I believe completely in the province of Manitoba. I brought a wife over from the USA, and she's was American, and I met her down in the States, and I said, if we're going to get married, one of the conditions is that we're going to live in Manitoba because I love this province. I've lived in so many places in Manitoba. And we have OCN, we have the PAW, we have Shamalan Cree Nation, we've got Easterville, we've got Mississippiwastic Cree Nation, we've got Grand Rapids, Dauphin River First Nation, as well as Dauphin River, Peguis First Nation, and the Peguis community, Pinnipmutan First Nation, Fairford, Little Sask, Lake St. Martin. We've got Kino Geoshekaton First Nation. My apologies, I did not pronounce that right. We've got Jackhead. We've got Fisher River Cree Nation, as well as Fisher River. We've got so many communities that are spread out over so much. And one of the main things I would identify is, first of all, our party believes in faith, family, and freedom. And by faith, I simply mean what you believe. It might be your faith. It might be it might not be my faith. It might not be her faith or his faith, but we want to respect what people believe. And we have to reflect that in our educational institutions. I believe in family. I believe that the family is the building block. I had the opportunity to meet Oscar Laughlin and sit with him on his front porch when I was running federally. And it was a delightful conversation, a wonderful man. And I had the opportunity to get to know him and the community back at that time. And that's family. And family is so important. It's really the first institution that God created. And then there's freedom. And that the first two are they hinge on the last one, and that's freedom. Freedom to move about, freedom to exercise your personal opinion, your personal decision making. But to put rubber on the road, what we need is to identify our opportunities. We need to use the resources that are in every part of our riding. And we need to use the resources to benefit all, because those resources belong to all Manitobans. So when we invite a mining company to come in, we need to make sure that it's done properly and that it represents the aspirations of the people, plus public infrastructure. One last thing, public infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Wally. Edna, you're next with your closing statement with 3 minutes.
Manitoba has always been my home. Northern Manitoba has always been my home. And and I'm at that age now when I'm seeing, like, our nation, we have nothing to be proud of. Our children don't have anything. We need a government that's going to put them first, not just make promises. Manitoba has so much to offer, but our young people need a chance. Our older people, they need to live out their life in a good way. We cannot be taken for granted anymore. We cannot keep listening to promises, to empty promises until the next election. You know, I've lived this, I've lived a really a good life because my parents gave me a good life by teaching me, by teaching my brothers and sisters, and us by teaching our children. And then, you know, I've gone to all our First Nations. I've worked on most of them, trying to advocate to get them to do our First Nations can be self-sufficient. We need to be self-sufficient. We got to quit, you know, waiting for a handout, for a pat on the back, a pat on the head. We need real sustainable work. We need to be treated as if we are somebody. And we are somebody, and we need to get that into our heads. And we need jobs, we need health care. And you know, and I am really tired of all the saying, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but it never comes to fruition. We don't see it. I would
1
like to
minute.
see some of it in my lifetime. So my name is Edna Nabess. I'm from the PC party. I believe in a hand up, not a hand out. I will be there for you. I will talk to you. I will listen to your concerns. I will fight for you. I will sit on the other side of that table and fight till I take my last breath. And if I'm not elected, I will still do that because that's what I've been doing. That's what I was taught to do. So sorry, I get a little bit emotional when I'm so tired of seeing our people, all people, not living in this great province and prospering. So I want to thank all of you for inviting me here. I'd like to thank the 3 other candidates. I know we all want to see better, but give PC a chance. Give me a chance.
Thank you, Edna. And Dan, you're last for the 3 minutes closing statement.
Well, you know what? If I'm fortunate enough to get voted in, I will be available. I'll be around, touring around every community, every First Nation, you know, knocking on doors, having conversations, hearing concerns directly from you, real world concerns shared with me directly. And I will take that and I will be a strong advocate in Winnipeg. You know, I don't have to try to sell you guys on how poorly the North has been run over the last 4 decades. You can see it. You look up Main Street, burnt out buildings, empty businesses. So, you know what? If you're happy with the status quo, then do not vote for me because I will not stand for this. And I'm all about change. So if you're happy with the way things have been going, do not vote for me because I'm going to change things up. That's all I have to say. I'm Dan Quesnel, I'm a Manitoba Liberal Party candidate. And, you know, I encourage everybody to get out there and vote. It's, you know, it's part of what makes Canada one of the greatest places on earth to live. And I'm going to do what I can to make sure that Manitoba is one of the greatest places that we can live, give our kids an opportunity to make something of themselves here at home. And if you're, you know, once again, if you're happy with the status quo, then do not vote for me. Thank you.
All right. That brings our time to an end. The questions are over. The closing statements are done. I want to thank all the candidates for doing such an awesome job, keeping us on time. We're right up close to the 9 p.m. hour when we said we'd close. We heard some really great points today. Again, thank you for your great participation and following all the rules. I'm going to pass it over to Donna to close us out.
Thank you, Monty, and thank you again to all of our candidates for participating in tonight's forum. On behalf of the PA-OCN Chamber of Commerce and the University College of the North, I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us this evening, both here on Zoom and through our Facebook live stream. We will upload this video to our YouTube channel, and it should be ready to view and share by tomorrow morning. Here's your reminder that Election Day is Tuesday, July 21st, with advance voting available now through July 20th in the former Funky Threads building on 237 Fisher Avenue. I hope you found tonight's discussion helpful, and please encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote. Thank you again to our candidates, moderator, technical team, and everyone who helped make tonight's forum possible. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you for participating.